When most people think about ISO careers, they picture one role, the auditor. Coke bottle glasses, bow tie, clipboard, maybe a slight obsession with some clause numbers. Or worse, somebody marching in with the energy of a military drill sergeant and the charm of a wet compliance manual. But here's the truth. An auditing career isn't nearly as narrow or as boring as those stereotypes suggest. Whether you're deep in audits or just getting your bearings, there's a whole ecosystem of roles beyond the audit room. And today, we're looking at where your career can go. No tweed jacket required. Welcome to Lead the Standard. Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lead the Standard, where we explore practical ways to lead, audit smart, and make ISO work in the real world. I'm Kelly Taylor, and here, as always, Jackie Stapleton is joining me. Today I've left off the insightful part after last week's conversation. Prove it right again. Just for record, Jackie, not wearing a tweed jacket, bow tie, or Coke bottle glasses today?
Oh, thank goodness.
A little bit of colour, no tweed. I feel like we should have intentionally dressed that way. Would have been slightly entertaining. Today's episode, we are going to talk about what it really means to lead in the world of ISO, particularly in auditing. Touch on a little bit of management systems along the way. We are going to leave those scary stereotypes at the door and talk about careers and why the role that people are in right now doesn't necessarily need to be where they stay. Interestingly, I was at the optometrist's on the weekend, and I was talking to the lovely about lens options and those sorts of things, the lovely optical assistant, and she asked me what I did for a job that saw me sitting in front of a computer that had so many different things, and we needed to consider all those different things when picking lenses, and that's a whole different story. But when I told her what we did here at Atoll, she started asking more and more questions and getting genuinely curious about all the different paths and opportunities available in the ISO world that she didn't know existed. And that was before we even got to talking about the growth opportunities within those roles. So, Jackie, you've walked more than a few of those paths and taken more than a few of those opportunities yourself. So today, I'm kind of keen for us to break down the key roles and the growth opportunities that people might not realise are available in the auditing world, and share how they can figure out what direction might work for them. So what made you start this conversation for yourself?
I started the conversation for myself. Well, actually, you made me sound like 100 years old then, but you're right. I have dabbled in a few different areas, and I suppose really I take a look at what people are actually searching for before I write these articles. Like what answers are people looking for? What questions are they asking? And this was one of the ones that kept popping up. So I thought we'd revisit it, but in a different way, because obviously possibly the focus is more around auditing, but I have thrown in consultant as well. But I did try to look at the common focus, I guess you could say, and it's always good for a reminder, right? My story is probably very similar to a lot of people listening, and you might be at different stages, but I started my ISO career as a quality manager, and part of that included internal audits, obviously. Before that, I was a trainer for the company, an internal trainer. So for me, it was an amazing progression because it was like this amazing discovery of what ISO was. But because I'd already worked as a trainer in the same company, I was able to easily step into that quality manager role. I had that rapport with people across the entire organisation in all of the different states. So starting as an internal auditor, it really gave me that solid foundation to then see what the future opportunities were and still are out there. So I guess, if you're listening, you may have already been in that role as internal auditor and you've taken opportunities. But if you are in a role that is an internal audit role, and you might be a quality manager, HSE manager, environmental manager, there's so many more options for you. And it does really start with this internal auditing. It's a great way to kickstart. So as you mentioned, I have dabbled in quite a few since then. So I have worked as a consultant, trainer. That's always been, sort of embedded in what I do, training, facilitation. I am still a certification auditor, and really enjoy that. But now, of course, I work with people to, I suppose, elevate their careers. So you could call that a coach or mentor as well. So there's so many directions. You can even make it up. I don't know. There's something out there that hasn't been thought of in this field, and you're going to use your experience from this. So most people don't realize how many career options are actually out there, because you only see the role that you're currently in. I'm guilty of that as well. Like sometimes something I often forget about what I do is the training side of it. Whereas training is a huge part of what I do, but I sort of forget it, because when you're in the midst of it, you sort of lose sight. So I thought it might be timely to take a closer look at, I suppose, what's possible for everyone out there.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think I mentioned kind of last week, so many people get to the end of the year and think, oh, I'm stuck here. And again, last week we talked about AI and how that's becoming part of this world. And I think a lot of people forget that we still need people. We will always still need people in some capacity. And it is really good to expand and know what's out there. It kind of gives you a bit more peace of mind. So let's look at those possibilities.
Okay. And I guess, like, if you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a little model that comes up, because I like trying to draw things to demonstrate what my brain's thinking. But if you're listening, I'm sure there'll be a link, in the notes to take a look at. But I suppose before I get too much into this, I do want to address the model, because I did try to demonstrate, I suppose, the focus. So we've got, 4 quadrants and the top 2 are internal auditor and lead auditor. And I thought, well, that's sort of got this internal focus. Okay, so within your own organisation, you might be already that. Kelly and I are that for Atoll. Then on the right, let's go to the bottom. The bottom 2 quadrants are consultant and certification auditor. So I thought, okay, that's more of an external focus. Okay, so you can see where I'm heading here. I've tried to identify internal focus, external focus. What are those core roles that align with those 2 focuses? Then on the, let's do left side, again, you've got internal auditor and consultant, top, bottom. And when you look at an internal auditor and a consultant, it's all about like support and improvement. All right. So
I love that.
yeah. So an internal auditor, you're working within the organisation, hopefully that you know and love, and you've got rapport with your work colleagues, etc. As well as if you're external and you're a consultant and you're coming in, and you could be conducting internal audits as well, and you're helping them to fill the gaps. That's all about support and improvement. Then if you look to the right side, again, we've got lead auditor with the internal focus. You've got certification auditor or third-party external auditor at the bottom. This is on the right side. And I thought that was more about assessing conformance. Okay, so like identifying the gaps, I guess.
Yeah.
And whereas you can't really say, particularly as a certification auditor, you shouldn't be providing guidance on how to, that support and improvement, which is on the other side of the model. So, you can see there's these different focus and elements that are built into that model. Okay, so to me, that demonstrates there isn't just one path in this industry. So your internal auditing experience can lead into so many different roles. It depends on your strengths, interests, what you love doing, and of course, where you want to make the most impact. The most common career options, as I mentioned and tried to, I suppose, explain the focus, internal auditor, lead auditor, certification auditor, and consultant. Like, you can call them whatever you want to, but they're sort of the main terms we use.
Can I confess something?
Yeah.
As you were talking that through and looking at that, I had a stereotype visual. Very much so. The internal auditor and the consultant are supporting improvement, and they're really friendly, and we love them. You said they're friends with the people, they're supportive, they're helpful. And then the lead auditor and certification, as soon as you said assess conformance, I did picture our friend in tweed who was a little bit regimented and a bit grumpy. So I like that we've kind of highlighted that you start here and move to here, and hopefully this conversation can again break down that stereotype. We're not just assessing conformance.
No.
Like, that's the goal, but you don't need to be that person.
No. And I think the gap there, though, is you do assess conformance, particularly as a certification auditor, and you can't provide the solutions, but it doesn't mean you're still not supporting them without giving the solutions. So you don't need to be the quality police. So the differentiator there is how much support you provide them.
And the conformance, not people.
Correct.
Again.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So each of those roles that we mentioned, there is an absolute overlap. You'd see that already, Kelly. So there's an absolute overlap in skills, knowledge, responsibilities, but the focus and opportunities, like, I suppose, shift as you grow and you identify, well, what do I actually enjoy doing? So for me, when I moved out of becoming an internal auditor, I thought I wanted to be a consultant. Okay, there's no way in the world I wanted to be a certification auditor. Ew. I didn't want to be one of those people. But
you don't look great in tweed. You need more colour. Tartan's
that's
probably
what I
more your
found.
thing.
But when I did get an opportunity, so I was consulting, but then I got an opportunity to, I suppose, start conducting and working for a few certification bodies, and I found I actually enjoyed it. So my message has always been, don't write everything off until you've given it a go, and you can't get these opportunities unless you give yourself a start in something.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can all morph together. So for me, I'm an internal auditor and a lead auditor and a certification auditor. Don't consult or build systems now, but I certainly coach and mentor people to implement systems. So I've sort of morphed that one a bit. So you can do all of them together as long as there's no conflict. All right. I suppose the key point is you don't have to stay where you started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the right skills and the confidence, big key word there, you can take the next step, or as I just demonstrated, you can start sort of dabbling in other areas as you're still, if you're a consultant, you can actually do certification audits as well, as long as there's no conflict of interest, obviously. So all of those skills and experience support each other. So, but I still want to point out that, to me, it really starts with your internal auditing experience. Like, a lot of us start there, and we start there because we're working within an organisation that requires internal audits to be conducted. You're a great example of that as well.
Yeah, I think too, a lot of people underestimate again, myself included, underestimate the skills and experience that you get with internal audit. We do see quite a few people with absolutely no understanding or background or experience in auditing enroll in some of our courses. And they've never been audited, or they haven't necessarily been exposed to auditing as we're aware, and they want to jump straight into that lead audit role. And this is a conversation we've had during our virtual training with a couple of people. We've had our customer service team have it often. It's in our community often, is just start. Like, if you don't have an internal audit process, start one, because that will build that experience and create that exposure for you. And it will help you to understand, is this the place for you? Is this the right career for you? And weirdly, it's something that, as I've talked about before, I was scared of the auditor in previous roles, and I've learned to really love I think I kind of lead more to the internal audit consultant space, because I do like finding the solutions and implementing them and that side of things. So it's not a career path that I would have considered before, but it's where I've kind of naturally fallen. So don't underestimate the role of an internal auditor. It does open so many doors.
Absolutely, yeah. And that sort of reminded me, I'm working with a lady at the moment who is a certification auditor, and previously, worked within an organisation to implement systems, etc. So, providing solutions, as you said. And she's decided, oh no, it's too frustrating being a certification auditor, because I just want to help people so much, but I can't. So
Yeah.
she's found that and explored it, and then she's circling back. But her experience as a certification auditor will be so beneficial to her, not only her, but her clients.
Clients.
Yeah.
It's that exposure.
Yes. So she's been on the other side. She knows what they're looking for. So you can see how no matter what you do and in whatever order you do it, you'll get to a certain point in your career where you'll be led up a certain path that, is really something that lights you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so all I'm going to do is sort of, and we might have already covered that, but we might be a little bit more specific, I guess, Kelly, and explain a little bit more about, well, internal audit role, lead auditor role, what's the difference, certification auditor and consultant, just to break it down. And I'm sure...
try and keep ourselves on track.
That's right. I'm sure there'll be crossovers, because that's
a lot.
Yeah, that's what I tried to demonstrate here anyway. So if it happens, it happens. Okay.
Such is life.
So, internal auditor. This is where you focus on your own organisation. So normally an internal auditor does work for the organisation. You can, in some instances, have a consultant that comes in and does the internal audits as well, but it's about checking whether your processes are actually being followed, and of course where improvements can be made. And as Kelly and I have said, this role really builds your technical confidence, because you get to see how things are applied. So, you might have done your course, got your qualification in whatever standard or standards you're auditing against and the system has been built against, but now you get to see it in real life. So to me, that's building your technical confidence. You'll have some technical knowledge, but this is application. So you'll see it in the real world, and that helps with confidence, because you can go, oh yeah, I've seen it look like this. So it's not just your technical side. a huge thing is your like your auditing skills. And something that came to mind there is really your soft skills and your communication skills are huge if you look at it from the audit perspective. Okay, because you're talking to people, you're sitting with them at their desk, you're following them around, they're showing you things. You've really got to think about how you are asking questions. So all of this is knowledge, like it's tacit knowledge that you build through experience, exposure, making mistakes, and after the audit going, oh, why did they react like that? They got really angry when I asked them that question. And possibly if you reflect on how you ask the question and possibly your body language, you might go, oh, okay, so maybe next time I'll be aware of this. And I know that such and such Bill reacts this way. Next time I'm going to approach it differently. Okay, so it's an opportunity to learn, make mistakes, and grow. But it is the starting point for most people, because it does give you your practical understanding before you can take those skills out, in the wider industry.
Two things that I love about internal audits that none of the other roles give you is the opportunity for, I suppose, longer term feedback. Because you said if you ask Bill a question and Bill got angry about that, it's not just did Bill get angry in that moment, has Bill stopped talking to me in the lunchroom? And you can see, you've got kind of a longer term gauge, but it's also a good way to practice forgetting what you know, because it's, as an internal auditor, sorry, more coffee this morning. As an internal auditor, you know that system. So when you're working through, you can't, as an auditor in general, you can't be giving the answers and the solutions. So becoming the internal auditor gives you the ability to practice not providing the answers when you know that the responses you're getting are incorrect or as you had perceived them. So it's a really good way to learn to be quiet, I feel.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so you don't get that opportunity once you start doing external audits, because you're still, unless you have been working with that client for a number of years, you're not going to know that system to know if that is the right or the wrong way, or is there just a hiccup somewhere. But if you're living and breathing that system too, and you know what someone's telling you is incorrect, you can't say to them, no, that's not what you do. That's not what the system says. You've got to learn to be impartial in that environment where you know what's happening.
Yes. No, that's a good point. That's another learning opportunity,
Yeah.
because obviously, while as an internal auditor you are asking the questions, listening is a much larger part of the role. Yeah, you should not be doing most of the talking. Okay.
And interpreting too,
Oh,
not
yes,
interpreting.
that's right. Exactly. It's like, yeah, and it's understanding, oh, what are they talking about? They might be calling it something different. What does that look like? So being like open-minded and really understanding as to how different people explain things and learn, because we all know that, like, if we're training people, actually, I talk to this with my son a lot. He manages a retail store, and he gets frustrated with new staff, and he's training them to do certain things, but they're just not getting it. And then he realizes, oh, okay, well, they actually need to do it more than me showing it. Whereas some people just need to be shown once and they get it. And it might, again, depend on their experience, but you just have to change your approach. And the same goes as an internal auditor. Any audit role, even a consultant, you need to become really clever, adept, aware of how people are responding, reacting, engaging, the language that they're using, so you can see whether how you're asking these questions is actually working and does it fit with their learning style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all opportunities that, internal auditor gives more of than necessarily the other. So I think, don't underestimate the role of an internal auditor.
No, absolutely not. And that's what I keep saying. This is the great base. We all start from this basis. But it leads to the next one,
Yeah.
which we've said is lead auditor. So look, you still, as a lead auditor, you're still conducting audits, obviously. And as a lead auditor, it can be internally or externally as well. But there's a few more responsibilities as a lead auditor. So you sort of progress to planning the audit. So that's your responsibility now. Leading the audit teams. So you have an audit team member, obviously. So you need to ensure that, they've got sufficient, or they've planned their checklist of questions. They're part of the audit timetable. You need to check in on them, see how they're going, what are their findings. Are you doubling up? You need that. You're managing another person within that audit process. And I suppose you're managing the timetable as well, the audit plan. You basically take responsibility for the full audit process. It's the lead auditor that is responsible for delivering the opening meeting, delivering the closing meeting, collating and facilitating the collation of findings in the team meeting, doing the audit report. So as a lead auditor, you have more responsibility. Okay. Some of the certification bodies I've contracted for in past years, the lead auditor actually ends up getting paid a bit more because you do have additional responsibilities. Not all CBs do it, but I have come across some that have recognised, oh, hold on, if you're the lead in this, you do have additional responsibilities, which I think is fair. So yeah, that's your progression to a lead auditor. But of course, you're still conducting the audit. So whatever we talked about in internal audit, it's still you. I'm sorry, but you've just got some extra stuff to do.
And look, as you mentioned earlier, you can be leading those internal or external audits. So again, while you're in the internal audit world, you can start practicing these lead auditor skills in there. So they're not necessarily entirely independent roles. They are, I should say, a progression and starting to learn and evolve, and it's all about that responsibility, which I think if we talk too much on this now, we're going to end up in the next space anyway. So did you want to jump straight into
Yes,
the third space?
sure. The next or third space is certification auditor. We sometimes call this external auditor or third party auditor as well. So, and remember, this is where this role becomes external and most importantly, independent. Okay, independence, no conflict of interest is still important as an internal auditor. You shouldn't be auditing the records or evidence that you've generated, but obviously, as a certification external auditor, it's free from bias, no conflict of interest is very important. You'd normally, and if we're talking about a certification auditor, you would normally work for a certification body or a CAB, which is a conformity assessment body, or a CB. Kelly and I might flick between those terms. And your role, and you could work for them either as an employee or a contractor. So there's a bit of a balance out there, either or. And really what you're doing is assessing whether organizations out there that are after certification, that they meet the requirements of the standard, so you can recommend them or not for certification. So you still use your lead auditor skills, you still use your auditor skills, okay? But now, obviously, the decisions that you make influence the outcomes of this business's certification. Did I cover that right?
Yeah, I think you cover that, I think, really well.
Oh,
The
thanks,
the
Kelly.
difference. You're welcome. No bias. But no, that I think that's the core part here. Again, you mentioned every time we need to be to non-biased, open-minded, all of those sorts of things. But yeah, being really independent and that no conflict. And this is kind of where there is that slight difference between certification and lead auditor, that in that if you are um actually not even really it's not even a difference. The As a lead auditor in an internal organization leading the audit team, um you are still going to need to be aware of and potentially disclose those conflicts that you were talking about
Hmm.
earlier. So again, not auditing your own work, all of those sorts of things. But a certification body, I feel that there's a lot more responsibility about disclosing that up front. I know there's been a little bit of that in the news lately around organizations being or having conflict of interest and not necessarily being independent. And I think it's really important to highlight here as an auditor, it's our responsibility to put our hand up and say, hey, these are the things that I think could be a bit of a challenge. This could, because it's people's businesses that you are impacting here. It could be a small mum and dad business, it could be a large international organization, and you are playing with people's lifestyles here, their lifelines. So I think there's a lot of extra responsibility that comes with this, but I don't know that necessarily there's too big a leap between the two other than having that extra, I don't know what's the word I'm after.
Awareness.
That's the word
Yeah.
I'm after.
It's
Thank
easy.
you. Simple
Yeah.
things. Yeah, I think this is a really good one, and as you said, the exposure and the opportunities that come with becoming being a certification auditor. You can start here and then
Yeah.
branch out even further,
Yeah.
so
And I suppose we have to understand that the difference, an internal auditor, as you pointed out, you're auditing systems that you're most likely familiar with. But when you go and conduct an external audit or certification audit, well, you're walking into a new business. It's sort of like starting a new job. You don't need to know every single platform or program. Like I've had people come to me and go, well, but I don't know that program. You don't need to. You're not working there. You just need to understand the systems and platforms that they have in place. And as their people are showing you how things work, you're translating it to the standards requirements. You don't need to know the business like the back of your hand, like you might do as an internal auditor. So yeah, a lot of people think, oh, but I only know these systems. I've seen so many systems, it's ridiculous. But honestly, I hate to break it to you, they're all the same. Oh, they're just the same. It's just
yeah.
so that's where you click that button. There must be something called this somewhere. Like I'm prepping for an audit in December and I'm doing the first day remotely. And yesterday, the owner of the business said, oh, I'll just send you a login to the ERP. Their ERP has been, I don't know what you could, custom built. It's not off the shelf. And
Yeah.
I've been in there, I don't know, I've been going, I think they've had the ERP for 5 or 6 years, but I won't need a lesson on how it works. Like I'll know, oh, so here's the procedures. I'm guessing I'll find a manual in here and how they do things. And oh, here's some registers. Oh, I'm guessing this is where I'll find the hazard register, legal register, improvement register, possibly the internal audit schedule. Like it's there's nothing different. They're all exactly the same. So yeah, and we do this, Kelly, when we conduct job interviews. It's like because we have certain programs like Asana and HubSpot, but if someone's got Salesforce or Trello or ClickUp experience, well, it's all transferable.
Yeah.
Salesforce is the same as HubSpot, honestly, and you pay a gazillion dollars for both.
But it is, I think the biggest thing for a certification auditor is, like you said, the different language and different terminology that different organizations use for the same thing. We do it here. Our different systems have different terminology for the same thing,
Yes.
which is great if you're working in one, but if you're working in them all, it's a bit of a challenge.
Yes.
But the other thing that gets me really excited about that certification auditor space is, if you are a curious person, this is this is so much fun, because yeah, you get to learn about what other people are doing the same things different
Yeah.
ways. And it's, yeah, being, as you said before, being open-minded
Yeah.
and open to these opportunities. This is a really exciting space to get into.
I agree. I often come away and think, oh, that was interesting.
Yeah, the only problem with this is if you work with a certification auditor who has access to an improvement register, when they come away from the audit, they go, oh, that was interesting. Let me add that to the improvement register.
I
So
was
there is a downside.
I was going to hint, yeah, it's very handy when you have your own business to go, oh, I think that would really work. And of course, it's different for our business, but it's an idea. And that's what you were trying to say, Kelly. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's really clever. I can see why that's working. So
Yeah.
you get to learn so much.
Yeah. It's not about, yeah, it's not about you. It's about them growing, but there's still something in it for you. It's not a job that I foresee getting boring necessarily. If you've got the right clients, we'll call it that, and if you've got the right attitude, it's certainly something that different things, different days, different places, different, yeah, all of the opportunities that come with this level of auditing. But I think that's a nice little segue again, that curiosity and getting all of those ideas, but also drawing a line as we move into that fourth space. And I think this is where you've got to be careful, I
That's
think.
a very good point and good reminder, Kelly, because obviously, as a certification auditor, you are not a consultant. Please do not fill the gaps and tell them how to fix stuff. You are crossing the line.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just because you saw it nice somewhere else doesn't mean that these guys need to know about that.
No.
Confidentiality.
Yeah, yeah, you are crossing the line. So completely separate. All right. So as a consultant, and even in this wording that I've put together, you actually support organizations to design, implement, and improve their management systems. Okay, that is a consultant's role. That's not a certification auditor's role. Can't remember what I said about that. You're assessing whether they meet the requirements. So it's sort of after the fact. Okay, the design, implementation, and improvement has already been put in place by the consultant and the organization, and then the certification auditor just comes and checks it. Okay, the certification auditor does not implement. Okay, so that's completely different. So that's a key takeaway here. So your experience from auditing, however, becomes absolutely invaluable in helping others build systems that work well in practice. Okay, so remember, I'm saying your experience from auditing, you are not the auditor in this case. Okay, and because if you've got auditing experience, you've gone through that process of checking compliance and identifying gaps. So then when you flick to a consultant, you've got that experience to help you to go, okay, I know what they're looking for now. And as a consultant, you can fill the gaps. So there's a lot of consultants out there. I said that we're once certification auditors, but there's a lot of consultants out there that actually do both, obviously for different organizations. Okay,
You would hope.
they do not do both for the same organization. So there's a lot of certification auditors that I know and work with that also consult, but obviously to different businesses. And their experience across both is extremely beneficial. So they've seen so many systems, like what Kelly said, because you see so many systems and different ways of doing things. They know what things should look like and whether it meets the criteria or the requirements. So you can see, even with like consultant, everything sort of snowballed here, and all of that experience in whatever this is where your journey might take you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I think this is the space for those who want to help. And I
Hmm.
think, yeah, and we see that all the time. Oh, I people giving the answers in interviews rather than asking questions. Like, hang on, we need to step back a bit, and that's not our role. That's not our responsibility. We're stepping into that consulting space, and again, there are some roles where you can provide those solutions, but the large majority, that's not the role of the auditor. So, yeah, I think this is, again, a really exciting space if you like to help people and you are solutions focused and you do like to make all of those improvements. There's still an element of auditing that's required in this because obviously you need to do a gap analysis to find what does need to be designed and implemented and improved. So you can't really just jump straight into this space, I don't believe, regardless of your
No,
experience,
no.
without having some sort of understanding around all of those things and to know what you're looking for. But you also need to know how to kind of pull back a little bit as well. Just because you've seen a fantastic system over here at XYZ International doesn't mean that it's going to be the right fantastic system for 1, 2, 3 mum and dad over here.
Yes.
You need to be, again, flexible and adaptable and know your clients and their outcomes, and yes, as you said, to meet those requirements and what good looks like without going over and above, because you can be a consultant that has a cookie cutter, one size fits all approach, but we all know that one size does not fit all. So, yeah, being mindful of that in this space as well will be what makes you a good consultant.
I think a key word that you used there was help.
Mm,
You do not do.
mm,
And this is something that some consultants fall into. They do. So this is what I've experienced as a certification auditor when a consultant's been present at an audit, and I'm asking questions of, the people that work there, the directors, top management leadership team, but nobody can answer my questions except the consultant. That is not how you consult. I know I'm going off on a different bandwagon, but you said you
no.
help. You help. So another skill you need, and we talked about this, is understanding how people learn. You need to empower the people that, are working within these organizations, the leadership
Mm.
team first off, because that comes from the top. But you're not there to do everything for them. You're there
They
to
probably they probably do most of it already and they just don't realize it.
Exactly, exactly. You're there to highlight, oh, you're doing this. We just need to tweak this. Why don't you, when you conduct the next meeting, rather than just talking about it, can you maybe take some meeting minutes, and that will go towards the management review. So it's you're using your experience to identify those little tweaks, but you're not the one that needs to come every 6 months and conduct the management review and take the minutes. Okay, it's to be handed over to the organization to manage. That's where you get the best outcomes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I
Um,
think, yeah, empowering, assisting, supporting, but not, yeah, actioning necessarily.
yeah, that's right. And there'll always be that supporting and guidance there as they grow and change, and what, oh no, this has happened, what do we do? So as a consultant you can still guide and help them, but just don't do
Yeah,
it. So that's a big
yeah.
thing.
Actually, I just thought, so one big part of a consultant's role is training.
Yes.
You're going to be training these people on
Yes.
not so the systems. If you are engaged to implement, you do need to train and hand over and make sure that these people are self-sufficient, as you said, empowered to be able to take on the systems
Absolutely.
themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, will I wrap up?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end. There's lots of crossovers here today, so
Well, you
let's
know where to
let's
find us if you've got questions. Okay, so these are my key takeaways. Internal auditor, so you audit your own organization and you help to improve the system. It's where most people begin, and this is where you build your knowledge and your confidence in what on earth these standards are saying, what those requirements are. Then the next step is the lead auditor. Okay. All of those things from internal auditing, that's still you as the lead auditor. You've just got some extra stuff to do. You'll plan and you'll lead the audits, obviously. You manage the audit program, the timetable and the plan. You deliver the opening meeting and the closing meeting. You take responsibility for the audit outcomes, meaning what are the findings? You collate them. You are responsible for the audit report as well. So this, I guess, from an internal auditor to a lead auditor, that's a progression with leadership. That's a leadership role, essentially. So, oh, there's a whole other topic there. I just sort of stopped, Jackie. Okay, so certification auditor was the next one. You work independently for a certification body or a conformity assessment body. Same thing, different terms are used. And you assess whether organisations meet the requirements of the standard. And I suppose the big difference here with regards to an internal auditor is that you're actually influencing the certification decision. So as a certification auditor, you're recommending them or not for certification. So it's a bigger impact on that business. And finally, the consultant. You help organizations design and improve their systems so they work well in practice and, of course, meet those conformance requirements that we were talking about that the certification auditor is looking for. So that's why Kelly and I talked about how auditing experience makes you as a consultant highly valuable in this role because you're bringing that experience into it as well. So they're all as important as each other. So, yeah, I'm thinking every one of these roles really does matter. And I know we've said there are like next steps in this, like, the next step, which way, but you can also do it in parallel as well. So I don't want you all to think, oh, step one, step two, step three, but definitely if you're an internal auditor already, congratulations. What a great way to start. And you have so many options as you learn and grow in that role. And, these are the key or the core ones that Kelly and I have uncovered for you, I hope. So before I hand it back to Kelly, as always, I'd like to close with anyone can follow the standard. Why don't you be the one to lead the standard?
Thank you, Jackie. That is a wrap for another episode of Lead the Standard. Today, we hope was a reminder, as you said, that internal auditing isn't just ticking a box that you have to stay in. It is really a foundation to build from. So whether you're curious about leading bigger audits, working for a certification body, or stepping into that consulting space, your internal audit skills really can take you much further than you think. Two key takeaways for me that I think really simple this week. If you're a curious person, look at auditing as a career. Curiosity is a really good space. And if you're a helpful person or you want somebody who wants to help and support, assist, maybe look at consulting as the space to go. But as you just mentioned there, Jackie, there is so much crossover in these roles and spaces that it was really difficult for us to stay on that one topic at a time. They really do blend and work in parallel. So just keep that curiosity for auditing and that supporting for consulting. Keep that separate. So Jackie, yeah, again, thank you for explaining and expanding on where these skills can take us. We will be back in a fortnight with another conversation designed to keep everyone's thinking sharp and their systems strong, whatever that new next ISO curveball might be. Do make sure you've tapped that follow button so you are first in line when that next episode drops. But in the meantime, if this episode has helped you or somebody you know is looking for a career change, we'd love it if you shared this, left a quick review. It really does help others to find the show. So until we see you next time, take care, stay curious, and keep leading the standard. Bye for now. Thanks, Jackie.